In today's video, we will be sharing some extremely occult content. This channel deals with so-called conspiracy theories, but as a result, the content tends to cut sharply into social issues. Recently, there have been a number of cases in which YouTube's censorship has ended up hating them, and it has already been a situation where they have been making videos that have not been monetized at all for almost a month. Therefore, in this video, we will touch on a topic that has a strong occult orientation and extremely nonsensical content. Moreover, it is considered in the context of the series of cloning and takeover stories that started with Mudflood. Today's theme is about underground facilities and underground bases where UFOs and aliens live, especially known as the Dulce War, which took place in an underground facility in the mountains near the small town of Dulce in New Mexico, USA. War between aliens and American Special Forces, resulting in 66 to 68 human victims. We will once again consider the situation in which we find ourselves on this earth, including the topic of sacrifice. In creating this video, I referred to several YouTube videos, but I also have an English ebook that contains more serious research and testimonies. I made this video after reading the entire book, The Dulce Wars, which was privately published on Kindle in 2011. Now let me explain about this Dulce battle. The story is about a battle between aliens and humans in Dulce, New Mexico, USA in 1979. This is an incident in which the U.S. military special forces raided an underground base located inside a mountain near Dulce, in which the U.S. government was also involved. One theory is that since 1947, the United States has entered into an agreement with aliens, allowing the aliens to abduct humans and conduct human experiments. In return, it is said that they were provided with advanced science and technology. It is said that humans were working together with alien races such as Greys, Reptilians, and Dracos within this base. In fact, countless people have gone missing in Dulce and throughout the United States. You may have heard that there are many searches for missing persons in the United States. In fact, there was information that 1 million people have already been victimized by such kidnappings around the world. This is because there are about 1,000 underground cities and bases inhabited by aliens around the world. In particular, many people may have heard of place names such as the American Southwest, Area 51, Los Alamos, Met Shasta, and the Denver airfield in connection with UFOs and the occult. This is an area like this when viewed on Google Maps. The geographical conditions are similar to the region around Cappadocia in Turkey, which is a desert and rocky mountains and is already well known for its underground cities. This desert and rocky land that stretches from the Eurasian continent to Africa was originally fertile land. It is thought that it was completely destroyed by a relatively recent disaster or a tremendous war. In those areas where the destruction could not be completed, buildings from the previous civilization remain as ruins. Typical examples are Cappadocia in Turkey and the pyramids in Egypt. And in Cappadocia, Turkey, a huge underground city has been confirmed, likely due to the influence of mud floods. It is also said that huge catacombs, underground cities, and secret underground networks exist from Europe to Egypt. This land in the southwestern United States is known to have very famous spots related to UFOs and the occult. Among them, one of the most important bases is Dulce. It is said that there is an entrance to the underground base in one corner of this mountain. It is said that genetic manipulation experiments and the production of clones were carried out in Dulce's underground base. The book I referred to this time about the Dulce War included an interview with a person who actually worked as a human employee at this base. As far as he knows, he is aware of the 7th basement floor within this base and says that he was able to travel up to the 7th floor with his ID. This facility is an environment where humans and various other aliens work together. On the human side, there were white people, black people, and yellow people. But all of them could speak English, and it is said that there were especially many white people. It is also said that although it is a huge artificially constructed underground facility up to the 7th floor underground, the floor below is a space made up of a natural cave. It is said that many people were kept in this underground facility for experiments. Also, it seems that the aliens were told that the detainees were mentally weak, but that was not necessarily the case. When they go to the ground and confirm the identity of the detainee in their hometown, they also find out that their immediate family members are actually searching for the detainee. In this facility, genetic manipulation experiments and practices were conducted by various aliens and humans. The situation is naturally not humane. This person explains that those inside could no longer tolerate the situation and planned a rescue operation. At that time, interestingly, some reptilians also agreed with the plan and cooperated. In the end, U.S. military special forces, Green Berets, Delta Force, and CIA units reportedly participated in this operation. It is said that the combatants were gray aliens who were in charge of security at the base, and they used beam weapons to fight back against the U.S. Special Forces. It is said that 66 to 68 American soldiers and civilians lost their lives as a result. At this time, Mr. Phil Schneider, an engineer who encountered this engagement, lost a finger and suffered a wound to his chest. After this, in the 1990s, Mr. Schneider began to perform in various parts of the United States. He started our activities to make people aware of the aliens that exist underground. According to him, there are 131 underground alien bases in the United States and 1,477 underground bases worldwide. Furthermore, it is said that the underground bases are operated by vehicles that utilize the principle of linear motors that run at speed, Mach 2, and movement within vacuum pipes. And the U.S. government has an agreement with the alien side, which has been updated in 1944, 1954, 1962, and 1979. The 1954 agreement is said to have allowed aliens to abduct humans. In the end, Phil Schneider passed away at his home in January 1996. This is officially considered a suicide, but given the circumstances, it clearly appears to be a homicide. Information about Dulce's base is also provided by a person named Costello, who actually worked at the facility. It is said that research on human mind control, cloning, and genetic experiments were conducted in the underground facility. According to Costello, this underground facility is said to have up to 7 floors underground, but he also says that there is an original space created by a natural cave below. It is said that there are 18,000 aliens working at the Dulce base alone. It is also said that Draco reptilians are at the top of the organization. Information about the aliens said to be underground in the southwestern United States, including stories about Area 51, etc. In fact, we now know that there are multiple cases in which information appears to have been leaked from related parties in considerable detail. Then we use this information to explain things like mud floods, historical lies, and the theory that our ancestors were cloned. Looking at it from my perspective, I noticed a number of points that caught my attention. Even though they are aliens, they live underground for some reason. Below the relatively new facility is an original underground space made of a cave, which is also being utilized. Ultra-high-speed vehicles using underground vacuum tubes, which are thought to have been in use since the era of pre-civilization, are used. Aliens need to make an agreement with the government for some reason. Indiscriminate murder, unable to pray. Aliens are skilled at genetic manipulation and mind control. Medical technology that has been put into practical use on Earth is being spun out by aliens underground and is being announced with fabricated stories that make it appear as though it was developed on Earth. Now, although the first agreement with the U.S. government was made in 1947, aliens have been making agreements with humans for at least 300 years. The Rothschilds, Rockefellers, etc. had agreements with alien forces even before the U.S. government. Alien society is controlled by fear and death, and they are actually cowardly beings. What do you think? Have you all seen it? Aliens are survivors of a previous civilization, fallen angels, etc. It is thought that they are the very people who fabricated the history of the extinct civilization that we have been following and fabricated our own false history. These Greys, Reptilians, Dracos, Nordics, and other aliens are fabricating our history. Together with NASA, we created a falsehood that the Earth is a sphere. It is believed that they were the existence behind the scenes manipulating the world of war in the 20th century, and that they continued to take sacrifices as they pleased during that time. Both the British royal family and the Japanese imperial family are thought to be the aliens themselves, their minions, and their representative positions on the surface. And that position is shared by that ethnic group that you all know, Someone who actually worked with these aliens here in Dulce's basement describes these beings: ruled by fear and the punishment of murder. Extreme totalitarianism, where freedom of will of the individual is not recognized. They are strong when armed with a powerful laser weapon, but extremely timid when unarmed. Cowardly, treacherous, and always lie. Did you understand some of its characteristics? For me, it's the personality I expected. They are cowardly, and essentially weak. That's why they carefully spread lies in our world. If they had overwhelming science, technology, and weapons, they could just use that power and take control of the Earth at once. For some reason, they live hidden underground and make deals with the US government and other countries to establish their rights. This is very unnatural. As you can imagine, they are trying to exploit our rights to achieve something on this Earth that should not be done. They even fabricate huge lies about history and the shape of Earth. To go that far is something that only a very sensitive, timid, and unbelievable person can do. It is with great cowardice that such a detailed matrix of fabrication and fear manipulation has been created in our world. There are beings who are ruled by fear and cannot trust others, who want to ensure everything they do. These are fallen angels, demons, and aliens. These beings are said to be aliens, as if they physically arrived here from another planet in outer space. That is definitely a lie or a misunderstanding. According to the testimony in this book, these alien-controlled UFOs can be used for movement within Earth. It is said that it does not have the ability to go into outer space, and there is no information about the mothership sailing through space or the underground facility where the mothership is hidden. Although they are described as aliens, they mainly live underground here on Earth. Physically, they are thought to exist only within this Earth. This is an even more natural conclusion when you consider the fact that the universe, as taught by NASA, is a fabrication and a lie. Who the hell are they? Based on the information and considerations we have received so far, we will proceed with our understanding, as if fitting pieces of a puzzle together. Exactly when this three-dimensional world of Earth actually existed is an unfathomable question. I feel that the 20th century definitely existed. In the 19th century, its existence suddenly became questionable. In the 18th century and 1700s, it seems certain that at least all of that history is a lie and fabrication. And these official histories that we are told are stories that never actually existed in our 3D world of Earth. It can be thought that it is some kind of fiction generated by another dimension or AI. That is our world, where the first floors of many buildings are buried in a layer of clay. And since those buildings were built, it is clear that 5 to 8 meters of clay was deposited due to some kind of major disaster. But we don't know exactly what this was. However, beings that took shelter or lived underground may have survived this disaster. There was some internal testimony related to Dulce that said that aliens have been involved in human history for 300 years, that is, since the 1700s. It's not a bluff. These subterranean aliens have likely been around since before civilizations died out. This is even in contrast to the fact that we seem to have actually been cloned since the beginning of the 19th century. Dracos, reptilians, and greys may have existed on Earth longer than modern humans, and may be the remnants of a previous civilization. More specifically, many buildings and lands of civilizations such as Mu, Lemuria, and Atlantis. At this time, the ship may have sunk, and its survivors may be underground. I felt this intuitively when I went to Okinawa, Japan, and entered the underground space called Gamma. At one time, the Earth was completely destroyed, and almost all plants were uprooted and perished, leaving the whole world bare. A town with no people appeared on that barren land. The original buildings may have collapsed, but buildings that have utilized their foundations or been renovated are now appearing as good as new. That is the truth about a town without people. It is thought that Japan's great wooden buildings were constructed during this period, a short period from the early to mid-19th century. Who was responsible for this activity? It is thought that hints of this can be found in the wall paintings left in Egyptian temples. Of course, Egyptian wall paintings can be seen by looking at them on site, but they are not thousands of years old. To be frank, it's new, and it doesn't feel strange at all, even if you say it was made 30 or 100 years ago. These beings probably worked together with humans to rebuild civilization. There are traces of this at Horyuji Temple in Japan as well. Why are Nagas so revered in Thailand? These stories weren't that long ago. Buddha statues and Buddhas too. However, if you look at Ayutthaya in Thailand, it is clear that the ruins of Buddhist statues have been destroyed here, just like in Egypt. These may be the remains of a directly preceding civilization, or they may be beings who worked to rebuild this world after its collapse. But these beings are definitely being wiped off the face of this earth. It is said that there are Dracos, reptilians, and Greys working underground. Someone has rebuilt the devastated surface world and made it habitable for humans once again. The men in black were often photographed there. In the latter half of the 19th century, the people who were actually active in this new civilization of the world starting from the Meiji era were model clones of humankind that were degraded by genetically manipulating the bodies created by God. That is why we have observed unused genes called junk genes in our DNA. Normally, when these genes are activated, we have the natural abilities that come with being a child of God. By genetically manipulating us, beings seeking revenge against their creators sought to bind us as slaves. That being is underground. Even today, the representative example of this is the underground city in the southwestern part of the United States, which is why Dulce was featured this time. For some reason, Greys, reptilians, and Dracos are unable to operate freely on the surface. Perhaps its permissions are limited. They have no rights on the surface. On the other hand, we humans, whom they enslaved and ultimately planned to take over, have cloned bodies, but each and every one of them has full rights. There are traps set by underground beings who don't have rights to take away our rights. This is all about the structure of modern civilization, which I have talked about a lot so far. I've said many times before that it's all a scam, a fabrication, and an exploitation. Especially with the events that started in 2020. All over the world, Russia, America, Japan, China, Europe. Please remember that there were many incidents occurring at the same time, and we were responding in the same way. It can only be seen that they all obeyed something that humans could not resist. The existence that cannot be resisted is the underground aliens. The aliens had no rights, but as you can see in this Dulce episode, it is thought that they concealed various truths and made deals with governments of various countries using powerful weapons and science and technology as bait, and as a result, their rights were taken away. They even forced the American government to sign a contract with them to sacrifice the lives of their own people in exchange for science and technology. Of course, such contracts are considered illegal, but in the legal world, treaties between countries are considered to be superior to domestic laws. It seems that this concept of a world of laws is also justified by alien cunning. Democracy based on universal suffrage is based on the principle that representatives and governments elected by the people through due process of election act on behalf of the people's rights. No matter how egregious the decision made by the representative of that country becomes valid, and therefore the situation is such that the implementation of various wars cannot be adjudicated under domestic law. These systems themselves are false systems introduced to deprive people of real rights and human rights. This system was created from a long-term perspective, provided to humans, and spread throughout the world. That means it's an alien. Of course, the fraudulent central bank money economy is also provided by aliens. They are powerless beings without any rights, but somehow they have access to science, technology, and countless know-how. In any case, it seems that they were not the ones who created them, but were invented by beings from a previous civilization who were connected to the gods that were ultimately destroyed by them. They are powerless and occupy them as their own. I think this mechanism is like that. Please think carefully. The so-called rulers of our world are characterized by repeated lies and fabrications. It is all about restricting our freedom and exploiting our rights, assets, and labor. As expected, the aliens responsible for this are based on information from insiders. Aliens are cowards who are ruled by fear, cowardly, cunning, and lies. Since they are freaks at heart, they have carefully crafted a long plan to take away that right from humanity and take over. To do that, they falsify the Bible, falsify history, falsify science, falsify medicine. They have earthly shepherds who listen to them, prepare goats to demand sacrifices from them, and do whatever they want. In return, they provided small amounts of science, technology, and academic knowledge that would allow them to compete with an absolute advantage in the three-dimensional world. Why is it that inventions in this world have only been developed in Europe, mainly in Germany, England, France, and Italy? Has this only happened in the United States and Japan? Why were these countries the only colonial powers? This is because their bases are geographically underground in these countries, which is convenient, and because their puppets are located in these countries. This is because they were able to install the shepherd goat quickly. The reason that Japan was able to develop the impossible battleship Yamato and be responsible for countless other scientific developments was not because we, Japanese, were superior people. This is because the Japanese were a people with a secret pact with underground aliens. The aliens are real freaks, second-class residents who don't have any rights. They hide underground and are intent on depriving us of our rights. They had made a grand plan that lasted for 100 or 200 years and were about to finally bring about the apocalypse at this time. Let's spread meat-eating, make us sin, and let the law of karma take us underground. It was an important part of their plan to include us as part of them, the fallen angels. Rice and wheat are tools developed by them with malicious intent to exploit slaves. Please rethink your diet. Take a vegan and carbohydrate restriction diet. You don't need to be controlled by demonic powers on the earth. Please listen to Kazumi's Mukuro again today.
時を越える海風潮とムクロの波今私の間をすり抜けては嘆くうつろな瞳並ぶ鉄格子の国傲慢と裏切りを諦めで潰した愛ときれいに飾ってどれだけの命詰めばやがて気づくのでしょうか血みどろの叫びすらも檻の向こうに隠して砕いてちぎって罪深き人の闇果て知らぬ欲は自己矛盾の声さえ雑音と捉える冷酷な作業のようにどれだけの涙飲めば世界は変わるのでしょうかほんのひとさじだけの甘さにいつまでも勝てない従うばかりで心の安寧と言い訳の山見つめても して